Row 18, plot 20.
American Mary. And this movie was directed, it was written and produced by the Twisted Twin sisters, Jen and Sylvia Soska, which was, for me, it was released in 2012. And this is a young lady who was a medical student, Mary Mason, who is kind of lured into this underworld of performing body modification um, for money. This young lady was desperate for money for school. I would say Mary Mason is played by Catherine Isabelle, a very beautiful actress, and she is a medical student who is pretty good at what she does, and has a professor, I would say, who and I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, because this is, for me, it's a good movie and it has a lot of intense parts to it. So if you haven't seen it, I will not spoil it for you. But Mary Mason is a medical student who is down and out on her luck, actually, for money to pay off loans, her rent, and other things that she's getting phone calls for. And lo and behold, goes out on an interview um, for a job, and during the middle of the interview of the job, she gets offered um, $5,000 to perform, um, I guess, some life-saving medical procedures for a gentleman that had come in to this place of business. And once she did that, it just opened the door, um, or the Pandora's box, to an underworld of people who would pay her for her services. At the same time, she got to do things that she wasn't able to do just yet in the real world, in the medical field. And she found herself being taken advantage of by this professor. And this is where our movie becomes a little darker than it had already started out to be, with doing these unusual, I would say, kind of, I don't even know if backdoor is the word or basement is the word, but she was doing these things in her home. She had a little studio put together, and then at one point, she meets a very interesting character, um, Beatrice, who has looks like she spent pretty much a lot of money to make herself look like Betty Boop. And she has a very dear friend who has also spent quite a bit of money on changing her look to be a doll, and wanted to go even further with this. So once she performed these medical services on the gentleman in at her interview, she was referred to Beatrice. And Beatrice is a very strange, quirky character who you will grow to enjoy, her voice and just her character in general, because she's a very good friend of this person who wants to have all of these things done. And she reaches out, and represents her friend, and lets her know, that she has someone interested in body modification, and she's heard about her, and that they were willing to offer her, lots of money, even $200, just to even hear her out. And so she meets this person, and this person tells her what she would like to have done, um, and the procedure was performed. And that particular procedure, and that particular person that she performed this on, um, will later come back towards at the end and eventually have a big effect on Mary Mason's actual well-being. And we'll fast forward a little bit to not spoil anything. Once she performed these procedures on this person, it just began to be one knock after the other on the door or the phone for her to perform these very different and outrageous kind of body modifications on men and women. And the directors and writers themselves were actually in the movies, Twin 1 and Twin 2, and they wanted some actually a strange body modification because they wanted to be with each other at all times and be as one. Um, so without spoiling it, I won't even give up anyone's body modification request, um, because I want you to see it and I want you to be just as curious and just as on the edge of your seat, like what could happen next, like what body modification would come in to this. But at the same time this is going on, Mary Mason is invited to a party by her professor, and there are other of his colleagues that are there. And at this party, she was taken advantage of. And the professor is not aware of what she is doing in her spare time, um, practicing her surgical techniques. She has been becoming very good at what she is doing as well. And it being in the dark world, she is kind of developing this numbness, this darkness about herself. So she was not aware of him being the person that he was when she was invited to this party. She goes, and some things happen to Mary that was very traumatizing. And I think at that moment in the movie, it changed her. It changed her entire being. And once that happened, she became even more into this dark underworld, to the point where she actually gets a little revenge on this professor. And I won't even reveal any of that. She gets revenge on this professor, um, and there becomes an investigation because he becomes missing. And then we have the detective that comes to look to speak with her because he has discovered that this professor and some of his colleagues have been taking advantage of some of the young medical students that they have been inviting to these parties. And he's investigating her, but at the same time wants to know, if she was ever one of those girls that this happened to. And if so, he could help her, and also to let her know that this was being videotaped. Um, and once she heard this, I think that was what really took her into the next level of things that she was planning or going to do to her professor. And it really surprised me because I did not know that in the beginning that this would turn out to be, I'm not sure. To some, it may be would use the words gruesome, but to some, I would even say it would take you back to I spit on your grave a little bit with the revenge that she does, the things that she does to get back at this professor. But when she performed, I'm going to fast forward, as she performs the body modification on this young lady, that Beatrice introduces her. She actually does this service for her in a veterinarian's office. Her niece is the receptionist, and they are able to use the operating room after hours. And she has a very satisfied customer. Um, as far as she knew, everything that was requested was performed. And we see her getting a referral of people. And now we are getting towards the end of our movie. Fast forwarding without giving any good spoilers. Um, this patient, this young lady, Beatrice's friend, she has a boyfriend, a husband, and he has been gone away. And she is a fashion designer, Ruby Dream Girl. And she has done this body modification, and he comes home and he's expecting, to see her and be with her, intimately. He has missed her and he wants to be with her, and she wants to show him everything that she has had done, because to her she feels complete, and this is her life stream. This is what she has worked on. And when she reveals herself, he becomes very enraged and he wants to know who did this. And he goes through a series, of upsets and anger, and takes things out on Beatrice, because he wants to know who modified, his Ruby Dream, his Ruby Real Girl, like what happened, who did this, why did you do this? And this actually caused Mary Mason quite a bit of grief, without spoiling it to say anything else about what happened to Mary Mason. But American Mary is another good, it's a good watch. It's a great cast. And I would say Jen and Sylvia, I have seen doing my research on who did the movie, have been deemed the Twisted Twins. And I would say they definitely are Twisted Twins, to have written, directed, and produced this movie. And they also were acting in this movie. And hopefully we'll get to see more of them. Or if they have done something, someone let me know what it is so I can watch it, and maybe do a review on that as well. But American Mary, Katharine Isabelle, great actress, and there were a lot of body modifications that I didn't know existed, so you'll get to see a lot of that as well. So if you haven't got a chance to watch it, it's a horror thriller. American Mary, released in 2012. And thank you, Jim, for letting me review this tonight. I had a great time watching it. I really did.
So have your dream. Go on and sing your song. There's nothing wrong with singing out of tune. If people laugh and say your dream can never be, just think of